Let's come over here and take a look. We're going to come back and look at Photopea. I realize that a lot of you are using Photopea, so let's take a look at how to get our images into Photopea. I want to remind you that the processes that I do right now are going to be exactly the same for you in Photoshop, as the applications, menus, and palettes are pretty much the same. So remember, when you're working for Replace Your Face, you have two images. You have your base image, which represents the image that you found online, and then you have your found photo, a photograph of your face in the correct lighting, angle, and all that, so that you can drop that in on top. So let's take a look at how to do that really quickly. From within Photopea, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up my base image, which is the Step Brothers image. Let's see where that's at. Am I just not seeing it? Step Brothers, PSD, PSD. Hang on just a second. Let me see if I can find this image. I just saved it to the desktop. Let's see. Step Brothers, PSD. Son of a gun. There it is. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and upload this guy. So first thing I'm going to do, so that is CLARK, this Mac, show closing folder. Okay, so it's in pics. Okay. All right. So let's take a look here. We're going to go over to pics. Sorry about that. I needed to figure out where I saved that image. I'm going to come down to Step Brothers, and notice I converted that to a JPEG because that's what you're going to be using. So uploads that image. Notice that it puts that image on its own layer. Now I need to go ahead and open up my other images. So there's a couple of different ways that we can go ahead and do this. One way would be to go ahead and do File New, or I can just go ahead and open up my images like I did before. And those are on the desktop. Let's see, Dolman, right there. So I'm going to open. Now notice that when it opens, look right here, you can see that it's opened Dolman on his own image. Okay, he is on his own file here. Tab 1, Tab 2. So two completely different documents. Let's go ahead and get the last one. Let's go ahead and open, and if I spell Fleister's name correctly, right there. All right, so now I have three documents open. I have the original Step Brothers, okay? I have Dolman's photo, and then I have Fleister's photo. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to start with Dolman. First thing I need to do is I need to get Dolman's image combined into the Step Brothers image. So I'm going to make sure that I'm on this tab. Then I'm going to go to my Select menu at the top, and I'm going to do All. And notice, you can kind of see it. It puts an active selection all the way around. Now, I'm going to go to Edit and go Copy. It's copied this information to the clipboard. So now I can go back to my main image and come back to Edit, and I can go Paste. And notice now that it has pasted the Dolman image inside my original image on its own layer. Let's see that again. Let's do that for Bill. So I've opened up all three of my images. I need to combine my face image on the main image. So first thing I will do is get that opened up, and then I will go up to the Select menu and select All. Notice that it puts an active selection around the image. We're going to go up to Edit. We're going to come down to Copy, so we copy that to the clipboard, come back to my other image, and then I'm going to go Edit. I'm going to come down to Paste. And now you can see we have all three images in here. We have Layer 2, which is there. I'm going to turn that one off. We have dolmen right here, and then we have our base image. So let's take a look now, and let's remind ourselves how we can go ahead and mask these together. First thing I'm going to do, however, is I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And remember, I'm going to go ahead and change the opacity of my layer so that I can see through him, because we want to make sure that we pay attention to the distance between the eyes. Another thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my View menu. I'm going to turn Extras off, and I'm also going to turn Snap off so that the image, as I scale it and try to place it, doesn't snap to edges or pixel increments. So with this image selected, I'm going to come up here to the toolbar options, and note that I'm in the Move tool. I'm going to select the transform controls. And notice now, this will allow me to grab, okay, a corner. And right now it's pretty freeform, but if I want to constrain his face to the same proportions, I hold Shift, and notice now wherever I drag my mouse, it constrains his face proportionally. I'm going to let go, and then I'm going to drag that over, and I'm going to zoom in here a little bit more so we can see the width of the eyes and the face. Let's grab that corner again, scale his eyes down a little bit further, release, and it looks like he needs to be a little bit smaller still. Still holding Shift to constrain that image as I scale it down. And that looks pretty good, I think. Let's see. We can come down a little bit to here and maybe just be a skosh bigger to right about. I'm going to go right about there. I'm going to click on this check mark to commit myself to the transformation. I can turn transform handles off so I don't get distracted. Now I'm going to come over here to this layer, and I'm going to go ahead and crank that opacity up. I'm going to have a sip of my coffee. While I'm doing that, I can pause. Does anybody have any questions about what I've done so far?
How did you first get the images in there, like the first time?
Okay, so let me remind you, Photopea is an online application. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to navigate to the application, get it started up. And then from within the menu, you're going to go to File, and you're going to come down to Open. So say, for instance, I'm not going to open up these images again. Let's say I want to go ahead and see what do I have in here. I'll open up the family JPEG. I'm going to click on Open. And then notice it creates a new tab here at the top. Okay, now I have 4 tabs. I have Step Brothers, I have the original Dolman, the Fleester, and now I have the Family PSD opened up in here as well. So File, Open, whenever you want to open a new document into Photopea. And remember, it does tab the documents up here just like Photoshop does. And then if you want to combine images into a single document like I've been doing, you come to the single image and select that image, then copy it to the clipboard, and then you come back to the image that you want to paste it into and go Edit, Paste. Does that answer your initial question, though, about how to open up an image in Photopea?
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Sounds like there might have been a question in chat. Let me take a quick look. Is there? Looks like there might be. Hang on. That's a good point, Fiona. Fiona says another way to place the photos is to click Open and Place instead of Open, so that way you can get them into the single document without extra work. That is correct. So what she's saying is you can open up the base document, and then you don't even have to open it up into its own tab like I'm doing. You can stay on the base document and then go File, Place, and select that JPEG, and it will put it right into that base document on its own layer. It depends on how you work. You know, I've got an old routine that I've used for 30 years. All bad habits are hard to break, but that's a very good point. Thank you, Fiona.
Awesome, thank you.
Let's go back. Let's take a look here. So now we've got his face scaled correctly, and he looks pretty good. And we have him selected. So now we want to apply a mask. Remember, a mask is chosen from within the layers palette, okay? And you want to make sure that the layer is selected. So if I come down here at the bottom, you'll see I can click on Add Layer Mask, and notice it puts a mask right in that layer. Also notice that the mask is linked to the data via this chain, and also notice that the mask is selected. See, I can have either the data or the mask selected. It's important that you understand that because sometimes students accidentally click here and they think they're masking, but what they are really doing is they are painting black or white on the image, and they don't understand why the image starts looking bad. So always make sure that if you think you're masking, that you are on the layer and you have that mask chosen. Now let me remind you, masking entails the use of the paintbrush tool and two values, black and white. Black reveals and white hides. So in this case, I have black currently for the foreground chip. I have my brush chosen. Let's take a look at my brush. Here, I want to take that hardness all the way out. Now, as far as size, I usually just do that from the keyboard using the bracket keys adjacent to the P key. Now, notice here that at 100%, when I click, notice that it starts to mask away that background. Again, pay attention over here. If you look at my mask, I'm on my mask, and now we see a hole in this image, allowing us to see through to Will Ferrell's hair. And notice I'm keeping the brush fairly far away because I have 0% hardness on it, so it's got a big feathered edge. And I'm just doing this right now to take away primarily the edges of the image. When I go in to work on masking him, I will actually go much tighter and right on top of the image, but I'll use a different opacity. Now, another thing to do is to get in the habit of turning this layer off and on so you can see if there's any areas you've missed masking. I want you to take a look at this area right here as I turn it off and on, and you can see there's some background still that's kind of on top of John C. Reilly's head there. So let's click in there and get rid of that. All right, so now I've got him placed. I've got rid of the harsh kind of straight line background. Now let's start to really refine our edits. I'm going to come up here to the top, and for my opacity of my brush, I'm going to change it down to about 15%, between 15 and 20%. That way, I can work a little bit slower or incrementally as I start to mask his face back. Zoom in here a little bit. All right, so notice now, I'm going to scale my brush down here a little bit. I'm at 22%, and I'm going to come in now, and notice I'm keeping that brush right along the hairline, and I'm just trying to get rid of that line I see there. Now I'm definitely going to have to use a lot of Will Ferrell's forehead and hairline on the top of Dolman, and I'll probably change my brush down to even a lower opacity to make that blend even further. But right now you can see I'm just kind of concentrating on the edges here. We'll have to use Will Ferrell's ear there. All right, cool. So now we've got these kind of issues right up in here along the edge of the foreline, but you can see that blends pretty quickly. So if I want to tackle this right here, let's take the opacity of my brush and take it down a little bit further. So I'm about 11% there. Let's see if I can go ahead and zoom in. And now my goal here is to kind of blend Will Ferrell's face into Dolman's forehead. So I'm just kind of working on these areas right here. And again, each click you hear is me adding 15% in a given area to show more through. Okay. All right, so that masks in pretty good, but you also probably notice that when you look at this image now, we can see that there's a definite texture all the way around. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and think about applying a texture to Officer Dolman's face here. Now, if I come over to my layers palette, remember, I need to select the data, not the mask in this case. So I'm selecting the data. So I can come up here now and I can use a filter. I'm going to come down to noise, and I'm going to choose add noise. you'll see that this dialog pops up right here. And you'll notice right away that it adds noise. Now 20% looks like too much. I'm going to take that back down and a little bit further, right about there at 7%. Let's look what Gaussian does for us. Makes it a little bit more erratic, I think. I'm going to go back to uniform. That looks better. And then what's monochromatic going to do? Monochromatic works pretty good. Let's preview this off and on. Kind of look right in this area as I preview off and on. And you can see that grain coming in and out. I'm going to go okay there. And that starts to blend a little bit better, but notice now we still have kind of a lighting issue. So let's revisit the last thing for this lesson in technical exercise. How do we attach an adjustment layer to just him? So remember, an adjustment layer is going to give me the ability to control the brightness of just his face. So with that layer selected, from within the layers palette, I will come down to the create adjustment layer icon and click on it. And notice that I get a lot of options. I'm going to do brightness and contrast. Now also understand that when you have an adjustment layer in the layers palette, it is going to affect every layer underneath it. That's why we see the background becoming washed out here as well. Let's back up here a little bit. Now, how do I attach it just to this layer here? I'm going to go ahead and right click on it and call it a clipping mask. And notice now a little arrow pops up there and it points directly down to this layer. Notice now it's only affecting Officer Dolman's face, not the entire background. So this gives me the ability now to kind of control the brightness of his face to help match that scene. I'm going to bring a little bit more contrast up too, trying to get this area right here bright enough so it kind of looks more natural for that washed out highlight that was on Will Ferrell's face. That looks pretty good overall. Zoom in on it and see. So we've got some grain, and let's take a look and see how this looked before, after, and after. Let's turn that completely off so we can kind of see there's Will Ferrell's face. Let's go ahead and bring this back on. So never would have known. And again, get in the habit of always turning that off and on and evaluating. It looks like his face could be a little bit warmer though for the scene, I'm thinking. So I'm going to do another adjustment layer, and I'm going to do that for color balance. And let's make sure that this layer will also allow me to clip. And I'm going to see if I could bring a little bit of red into his face, maybe right about in there. Looks pretty good. Yeah, I like that little bit of red in there now. It matches his skin tones overall to the entire scene much, much better. All right, so now I'm not going to repeat this again, but again, my goal would be now to go ahead and do the same repeat exercise with Fleester and drop him over on John C. Reilly. So remember, the goal is to use the application to size and scale your face, combine it with your found image. You'll need to go ahead and reduce the opacity of your face so that you can see underneath as you're scaling to match the size and shape. And then once you've got that size and shape and scale correct, commit to that transformation and then attach a mask to that layer and begin to mask away the hard edges all the way around your face, like I just showed. And then additionally move on to lighter opacity brushes between 10 and 20% to go ahead and really kind of feather in or really kind of paint in really refined edges around your face so that you kind of blend with that overall background. Let me stop right there.